salt of the earth. My uncle, who was a very interesting man. He's my great uncle that he was blind and deaf, and he went through life blind and deaf. He had a woods accident. A tree fell on him and made him deaf. And so back then the doctors figured by operating on your eyes that they could cure him, and they did, but they cured him. They made him blind. So he went through life blind and deaf. But that didn't stop him. He would walk our town, that he would take off and people would see him and they'd just be very understanding, and they'd wait for him on the street, you know, and automobiles would wait for him and when they crossed the street. He was a very interesting man. Both my grandfather and my great uncle. They were probably two influencing people. Then I had another uncle in Port Henry, New York, which is north of Glens Falls. And he lived on a farm, and I lived on that farm with them for several years. I have very fond memories of that. I look back and I can still see the hill on which the house was. It was a big hill, and on top of this hill was a farmhouse. And then down in the valley was the barns where they kept the two horses, Ben and Molly. And I spent a lot of time on that farm, and it was a wonderful time. Very happy times. So when I got in school, of course, I had to go to school. I went to the public school system in Glens Falls. Back then, that all of the schools were by neighborhoods. The town was broken up into sections. That we had the Big Cross Street School and the Broad Street School and the Abraham Wing School. And children in that neighborhood went to that school. And I was in the Hudson Avenue School, or Broad Street School, and it was a tough neighborhood. I mean, it was tough. That is where the poor family, the poorer ones lived, and my father never had a really good job. Being uneducated and with no education, he never had a good job, but he was a hard worker. I mean, I remember times he'd go out and stand in line waiting for it to snow so he could get a job shoveling snow. And about 1941 or 42, he got a job with an ice cream company, Borden's Ice Cream, because everybody had gone to war. And my father was disabled. He had heart trouble. And when he was a young kid, he lived on the farm with my aunt and uncle. And he had the back of his legs cut in a scythe where they would cut the grass, and he was coming up and they cut the back of his legs on a scythe, and it left him basically handicapped. And but he never let that bother me. My father always spent time with my brother and I playing baseball and fishing and doing all the things fathers and sons do. And I do appreciate what he did. In fact, I just came across that had it not been for the sacrifices my parents made, I wouldn't be here today.